Of course, we'll drive straight into the conversation. We have Citizen Matthew O'Connor. Of course, let's delve right in. Hello, Citizen. Good to have you on the show. Citizen Matthew O'Connor, can you hear us?
Okay, I think the network has chosen not to favor us this morning, but whatever it is, we must have this conversation because Nigerians need to understand that their right is important, and it is very important that the federal government keeps abide by the rules. Since they are saying that no one is above the law, they should not also go over the law. Yeah, they should not go over the law to make lives miserable for Nigerians. They should also abide by the law. There is a constitution in place. There's a human right in place. There's also freedom of speech, act in place. So, Nigerian government.
Good morning.
Good morning, Citizen.
Morning, Citizen. Okay, good to have you. Okay. All right. So let's just delve into it. We've lost a lot of time already. So we're talking about the developments coming out of the presidency, responding to the human rights allegations leveled against them. They've come out to say that they're not infringing on any human rights, but that's opposed to all the realities that we're seeing on ground.
Please, can you take that again?
So the presidency has come out in response to TUC UK to say that they're not infringing on the human rights of, NLC chairman vis-a-vis the people of Nigeria in this administration. Do you think that that's a reality? And we were saying earlier, suddenly the presidency have found their voice where this matter is concerned.
Well, it's quite unfortunate that we have come this far having to do with human rights violations. It would have been better if it was kept in a local issue, as in a Nigerian issue. But now that it's been taken to the international sphere, it's a pointer to a wrong route that we must stop running. I personally watched a video clip on social media where the conference addressed the issue of arrest, detention, and restriction of Joe Ajero, the NLC president, from traveling for an international conference in UK. And the conference attendees are unanimous in condemning the act. So whatever be the response of the federal government, is not helping the image of Nigeria. The country is not about a few persons in positions of authority. The country is about all of us. But sadly, people in government believe that government is their right and citizens don't have a right. That is wrong because the Constitution bestows sovereignty on the people, not the few selected by the people, or even if some persons found their ways to public office on their own, they don't have the authority to override the sovereignty of the people. The same issue that the TUC globally has condemned, virtually every person who is an activist, who is a patriot in Nigeria, has condemned it. You heard what Falana said. Falana has condemned it. There's a group, I've forgotten their name now. They have condemned it in very strong terms, and a number of other speakers have condemned it. Just like the raid on Serap and the trial of those that were arrested during the NSAS protest, it is unfortunate that the leader of activists in Nigeria, who is our president now, could be on the seat and things like this are taking place. we had Jonathan. Let me start from Jonathan, where the APC condemned and called him all sorts of names. We never had this kind of thing. Even under Buhari, that we saw as one of the worst things to ever happen to humanity in Nigeria, we didn't actually see this, and then it's happening now. We need to help Mr. President, because those working with him, maybe looking at his body language, or maybe trying to be overzealous because of lots of crises going on in different sectors, with even Gani Adams, the Arena Kakanfo of Yoruba land, made a statement yesterday where he lamented that Nigeria has had bad leadership from 1960, and we had a very terrible experience in the last administration of President Buhari, but they never believed they could have something that could be worse than the Buhari administration. And he has called on Mr. President to do something, because he describes the administration as being indifferent, insensitive, and unresponsive. Those are not commendable words, and because we are solutionists, as Open Forum, we join our voices to appeal to Mr. President to give more attention to governance than politics. What is playing out are just political moves which would not, at the end of the day, give his administration a good name or good landing.
Citizen, will you say that it is the infringement of some Nigerians, the right of Nigerians, is not known by the president? Because based on what you've just said, now it looks like he's not aware of some of these activities. So is some agency in his government are actually infringing on the right of Nigerians without his knowledge? Are you saying that?
Actually, network is rather pretty bad. Please, can you take that again?
So you have made mention that, the people need to help, we should help the president. And so the question is it that the president is not aware that some agency in his government are infringing on the rights of Nigerians?
We cannot say he is not aware, because he is the commander-in-chief. And no serious operation that borders on security can ever be carried out without the approval of the commander-in-chief. And it will be an indictment that such a thing is done and Mr. President is not aware. Somebody called on Mr. President to arrest and try those who are carrying out such acts, because the person believes that Mr. President is not aware and is an indictment of the administration. That is a low point if it is happening. So whichever way, if Mr. President is not aware, like former President Buhari would say when very terrible issues happen, that I'm not aware. I see why Tinubu is not that kind of person, but if he's not aware, it will be a very low point. Now that he's aware, because the statement made in defense of the arrest and detention and restriction of the movement of Comrade Joe Ajevo is an approved statement by the presidency and the president and the federal government. It shows that Mr. President is aware and is trying to defend an act which is obviously, one can say, is indefensible.
Okay, so yesterday whilst we tried to land the conversation, you were speaking to us as to how we can collectively meet this rising issue of human rights abuse in Nigeria, especially by this administration as perceived in this particular administration. You were going to tell us what we can do as individuals, as entities also. I mean, we're looking at journalists in the country. Investigative journalists have become endangered.
You're looking at what?
Investigative journalists. We're also looking at CSOs. So what can all this group of persons do to make sure that they have a collective voice to stand against human rights abuse and the infringement against freedom of speech?
I wish I can hear, but if you're saying about what can be done by activists or people who are supposed to speak up, I said yesterday that patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it. That was said by Mark Twain. And actually, we cannot, at this point in time, want to support leaders no matter what they do. We must stand by the country because we all need the country to survive. We all need the country to stay alive. The present condition that we are in as a people requires everybody to play the leadership role. Sovereignty resides with the people. And the conscience of society has to do with the media and the civil society. Where and whenever there's a conflict between the two, the people must have an upper hand. And government or administrations must be seen to have listening ears. As we speak, I'm sure you are aware, people have parked their vehicles. We have less vehicles on the road.
Yeah.
Even the fuel that has caused misery to people, the vendors, the traders, the marketers will not even have buyers. May not also bring down the price because of the mess that has been created by error of judgment, which we must accept. Mr. President has said in China that they removed the fuel pump price because he needed to get money for infrastructures. But we discovered that there's no infrastructure and the economy has inadvertently collapsed. People can no longer feed. People can no longer even to work. And it requires us to tell truth to ourselves. So advocacy is the way to go. And where anybody goes against advocacy that is supposed to bring succor, that person is...
Okay, I think...
We've been cut off.
We've been cut off
right there.
Okay.
We've been cut off right there, of course. He said that advocacy is one of the primary ways that we need to go to mitigate this advocacy on all sides, and he's making a case for patriotism on the part of Nigerians. So Nigerians must be willing not to lose steam in the fights, for nationhood, as it were. Whether we are fighting for the preservation of our human rights, we need to still stay on it, no matter the experiences that we are having outside there. But speaking about that, it brings my mind back to some of the fresh clamorings that we're seeing concerning the adjustment of the Constitution. Maybe whenever it's eventually considered, we should see more stringent rules being put against those that infringe the rights of citizens. We also need to see how governments can take responsibility for this. You asked a really serious question. Is the president unaware that there is a rising human rights abuse and infringement of freedom of speech? Are these experiences that we're currently having, is this something that has been masterminded by the wingsmen of the president? Because sometimes, in this country, we've seen it over time. People bear the name of, I'm working for the president and people
going ahead to do what... one of the things you mentioned that Nigerians should not relent, which also Senator Okono has tried to say that we should not relent in the arena. But with all that is happening in the country, the only way of advocating for good governance is protesting. The only way of, airing out your grievances is protesting. I mean, since you could not, some people might not have access to dialogue with certain, persons in leadership position. The best way to advocate for good leadership is hitting the street and protesting. But there's been recently, the governments of the day have been against those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me, citizen?
I'm with you.
All right, the next question I would like to ask, because you've made mention that Nigerians should not relent on their level of advocacy. The question is, the best way to advocate against the current hardship, of which also you've listed out, is protesting and also maybe having dialogue. But in recent times, we've seen that even those that are protesting are being allegedly prosecuted for protesting. How else can Nigerians advocate for better governance rather than, protesting? Are there other means we can ask for demand for good governance from our, the government of the day and still not get persecuted for it?
Well, the Mr. President is the king of protesters in Nigeria, and we give that to him. If for any reason what is happening has his endorsement that protesters are arrested and charged for treason, that is highly unacceptable globally, and it is a pointer to something that is fundamentally wrong, and the only way to cure it is to intensify, raise the voice further. I said somewhere on a sister station that President Tinubu had to fight his way through his party, who picked a consensus candidate few days to nomination. He fought the then president to a standstill, fought the party chairman to a standstill. He fought the vice president, who was also an aspirant, to a standstill. And he picked the ticket of his party. It was a spirited fight. So if Nigerians are faced with a situation where their lives are in danger, they must get into their spiritual elements to resist anything that will send them to their early graves or turn them to subhumans. It is not about Mr. President. It is about the people who must help Mr. President to succeed. Leadership is not a private business. Anybody can afford to mess around with his business and go bankrupt. But nobody should be allowed to hold political power and run the entire country aground. We wouldn't have anybody to blame for it. I wouldn't. I have that consciousness for several years because I had an experience of a vampiric system in Akwa Ibom State that almost had me buried. And I had to fight physically and spiritually to stay alive. So if the country finds itself in such a shoe now, it's impossible to want to tell people that are oppressed not to look for justice. It is impossible and unacceptable.
Okay, so just to wrap this up this morning, I think you've rested your case where this situation is. But yesterday, the governor of Akwa Ibom State took the youths to a rally to say thank you for not taking part in the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. And he had said there were going to be empowerment for 2,000 youths, FME operators in the state. Good gesture by the government. But one of the questions we want to ask you as a grassroots person who interacts with the field of play, how often do you see that these empowerments talked about by the state government gets to the people? Do the people finally handle these empowerment packages, or it just gets lost in the wind? What hope should we have concerning the rally that was held yesterday?
Oh, thank you for that question. First of all, we have to acknowledge His Excellency Pastor Umoino, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, has been people-friendly. He has tried as much as possible not to behave like his predecessor, who was not moved by tears. So I commend His Excellency for that. But over this celebration, that there was no protest in Akwa Ibom, the bad governance protest, I want to say that there was protest in Akwa Ibom. It was not hijacked. It was peaceful. It does not matter if there were just 10, 15, 20 people that did it. But nobody can say that there was no protest because It was peaceful.
But
And
Citizen
people stand in the
Matthew,
gap.
Citizen Matthew,
Yes.
this assertion you're giving this morning is against what has been widely reported concerning that 10 days of protest.
As far as
Where did the
as far as
people
Accord is
converge
concerned,
for
yes.
the protest? And was it just on the 1st of August that some persons came out? So take us to it. What really happened? Because I mean, what statewide, it was reported that there was no protest.
There were reports. The protest took place at the waterfall, and the venue that was approved by the security agencies and the government was Unity Park. Some persons gathered there peacefully and did the protest. It was raining. And I think the second or the third day, they went to Igbo Plaza and protested, and the police dispersed them with tear gas.
These are things you said happened in Akagbo.
Yes. So I needed to clear that impression. The reports are there in the media. But the truth of the matter is that our people are peaceful. And generally, the governor has made appeal that please, they should not protest. But even if it happens, it will be peaceful. And there was no mass protest as in, oh, it was so massive and the people resisted. No, they were peaceful. Even those that were dispersed at Igbo Plaza, they did not cause trouble. They were only directed by the police to go to the designated protest ground, which was Unity Park.
So your grievance is,
by the way,
your grievance is that we can't say that there was no protest.
Yes.
No, it is wrong, because those that stood in the gap, God is going to reward them.
So, but
they were non-violent.
Okay, so let's quickly shift to the reward that the governor is giving to the youth for not partaking. I mean, the media is widely reporting 310 million this morning as
as a reward for the youth not participating during the protest.
Yes, like I said earlier, His Excellency Pastor Moeno is in love with reaching out to people, affecting people's lives directly. His welfare program is second to none. You give that to him. Even though it may be affecting some very other serious program that should be looked into, but let's focus on this. The 310 million you are talking about is to be given today to local government councils to go and share among youths the local government 10 million. But there are other programs that may have to run into billions from this reward. You consider that he is going to train 200 youths and paying them 220,000 per month for transport. He has also increased a student bursary from 10,000 to 20,000, and for those reading professional courses from 10,000 to 30,000. And then he has also asked that a portal be opened for every unemployed youth in the state to apply in, put their local government and their qualifications, and he will be paying 5,000 of them 50,000 monthly.
Okay.
For a month. And he's targeting about 60,000 youths within the first 1 year. And he's recruiting, 3,000 into Ibom Community Watch. What we're saying is, when you look at the entire package, it's going to run into billions. But I have an issue.
Okay.
I have an issue.
So let's
and what is that issue?
Okay, yeah.
There is the Youth Development Bill that was sent to the immediate past governor, Udom Emmanuel, for assent. That Akwa Youth Development Bill is supposed to address issues on youth development, which is supposed to have been all-encompassing in training, in empowerment, in loans, or whatsoever. Why even the youth leaders or nobody spoke about that? Because I watched the governor's outing yesterday. I was embarrassed that none of the youth leaders, or those given a opportunity to speak, Could you raise that issue that the governor should look into the bill that was passed,
Uh,
but has not been accepted, that will address this issue?
well,
It's a low point.
Yes, Citizen Matthew Okano, this is a really serious concern that we are raising. Of course, we have a segment on Rise and Shine that's called Inside Akwa Ibom. I would have to spend time and have this conversation with you sometime soon, because are we even aware that the bill is present? Do the youth of Akwa Ibom know about this bill to even know what to present? But we must say big thank you, for covering the issues on the show this morning. Thank you so much for your time. We'll get back to the bill conversation sometime soon.
My pleasure always. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
The power of information, whether it's available or not, we need to have what to take. But that's where we need to draw the curtains today. Human rights is compulsory, and it's a collective responsibility to uphold in the nation. Well, my name is Uyai, and thank you very much for being a part of the Rise and Shine this Wednesday morning.
My name is Ime Emmanuel. Do enjoy the rest of our program and have a nice day. Bye.